Hello and welcome to another episode of Get the Boots. I'm Stephanie, your host, just returned from Europe, where spring has sprung, to deepest, darkest winter in New Jersey. I've pretty much landed in the aftermath of a blizzard. At least we're traveling to a sunnier place today. My guest is taking us on the Camino de Santiago. If you haven't heard of the Camino, it is a network of ancient UNESCO-listed pilgrimage routes across Portugal, Spain, and France that culminate at the Shrine of St. James in the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Galicia, Spain. Megan is originally from England and is currently, but only briefly, based in Manchester. But over the last 10 plus years, she's lived in Germany and Mexico, and now Spain is next on her list. She's also worked on cruise ships that took her all over the world. So I guess it's fair to say she has some nomadic genes going on here. I totally get it. Meg runs her own location-independent language coaching business, Mega Language Coach, where she offers immersive English courses. Of course, someone like her would need a business that can be run from just about anywhere. How and why she decided to create this is what today's episode is about. Sometimes in life, we know we need to make some changes, and sometimes it takes a drastic change just to get into that mind space. For Meg, it was walking the Camino de Santiago. So, if you've ever thought about walking the Camino, or maybe if you've never heard about this pilgrimage before, this episode is for you. Let's hear Megan's story. Welcome to Get the Boots. Megan, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a really gorgeous sunny day here today and I'm full of energy. I feel completely different to just a couple of weeks ago. Might be something to do with the, Chinese New Year starting soon and the year of the fire horse. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I keep hearing the end of the snake, the start of the horse. So let's hope it brings something positive.
We certainly need it right now, don't we? Anyway, I'm so excited to hear your story. Why don't you give us a little overview? Because you're another global person who has lived in various countries, so I can't wait to hear about all that. And maybe then talk to us about it sounds very big and massive and glamorous, your story of transformation. But I mean, that's what it is, really.
No pressure. I find it challenging to condense a whole life story in a few sentences, especially as you mentioned, like this global person, like how do you talk about one country, one language, one culture? But yeah, I have always loved travel. I've always loved adventures, and that's kind of gone hand in hand with language learning and teaching. So I guess that would be my motivation to explore the world.
Yeah. So you were born in the UK, grew up in the UK. And
yes, absolutely. My parents don't speak any other languages, but they were kind of from the get-go, they were very much like, let's go explore the world, like go and have these adventures, and they were very encouraging of that travel life. So after my A levels in the UK, I took a gap year, and everybody was like, straight A student, what are you doing? Like, you need to go straight to university, get a job. And I just went against the grain. And I think that was the first time properly in my life where I was like, you know what? I actually don't want to. And so I went to Germany and au paired for 9 months with a lovely family. And that was, the start of the adventures. During my degree, I studied languages and business. And so there was a third year abroad where I went back to Germany and France. So I worked in a chocolate factory in the south of France and then Disneyland Paris. So it was very varied, but
that
cool.
Sounds, I mean, working in a chocolate shop in France, I mean, that's like that sounds like a movie script. I love it. But am I right that
it was cool.
You didn't have German at school?
I did, but it was my weakest subject. It was not it was not very popular. It wasn't like everybody wanted to do Spanish, like learn about the glamorous sunshine and tapas, and I was like, oh, I think German sounds interesting, but not many people shared that opinion, to be honest, Steph.
That's I totally understand. I always say I'm so glad that I didn't have to learn German. And I can never.
I know why.
I've taught German as well, and it's the hardest thing is explaining to people why the rule is as it is. And because I'm as a native speaker, and you'll have the same experience with English, sometimes it's just you don't think about your own language in those terms, so it's really hard to explain. And you're just like, well, that's just because that's what it is.
How it is.
You
Exactly.
just have to, just learn the rule. At least with German, you have the rules that usually pretty
Yeah.
consistent. You
And
don't
they
have
do
as
follow
many.
the rules generally.
Yes, yes. So that makes it easier, but also, I mean, learning it takes ages until you can have a conversation. So kudos to you for going to Germany and braving it, even with just an A level.
Yep. It was the best thing I did for my language skills because I was
Yes.
teaching, or I was speaking to the kids in German.
Hmm.
And because it's a basic kind of level, there's no expectation. You're reading like storybooks. It
Hmm.
was, yeah, it was really good for my language. And then in the evenings, I would go to night school and do the tricky grammar and get all those explanations. But just throw myself in was the best thing I could have
Yes.
done.
So I kind of feel like there is a little rebellious streak in you. Like you were talking about going on to do a gap year where everyone else is like, what are you doing? Well, we should go straight to university. And also you took German when everyone else said, why don't you take Spanish? Um,
Yeah.
did you think that was just something in your personality that was there, just needed to come out?
I love that you've picked up on that because I feel like I have a rebellious side that most people would say like, oh, she follows the rules, she goes with, the expectations. But I think when you travel, and set up your own business and when you're a solo adventurer, especially as a woman, like you have to be able to be okay with your own decisions and be okay on your own. And I
Mhm.
think that rebellious nature is actually really helpful in those situations.
Yeah. So anyway, your 9 months in Germany didn't put you off by the sounds of it. So that's very good. I'm very happy to hear that.
It did put me off bread, I'm gonna have to admit. The Schwarzes Brot, for having that for breakfast and for dinner every single day
Oh
for
yeah.
9 months. My digestive system was like, what is happening? Why are we just eating so much bread?
That is
So
the
yeah.
funniest thing because you ask a German what they miss when they live abroad, and it's always bread, and people are obsessed. And yet, so my own
Yeah.
children, obviously, they have a German passport as well, and they spend a lot of time there. But after 2 weeks, like summer holidays in Germany, they always like, I can't wait to go
Yeah.
home and just not eat bread. And I was
Yeah.
like, what are
I
you
just
talking
can't
about?
believe it's a whole meal. Like,
Yes, I
that's crazy to
know.
me.
I know. And I still do it sometimes the evening when I'm too lazy to make anything else. Well, it's just like you know, bread and cheese and stuff. But I've lived outside of Germany for so long. It doesn't make me feel good anymore. And my husband always says I'm such a bad German because I don't eat a lot of bread, and I don't really drink a lot of beer either. So it's
Yeah,
just
like the
uh-huh.
culinary side was not the best for me. But I thought it was a joke at first. Like I thought it was just because the kids were tired and they were going to bed like the first day I arrived. And then they did it again the next day and I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, this is it now. Like this is what's going to be happening."
Yeah, I mean, I could hit back with white bread sandwiches and
Yeah.
insipid cheese and
Beans on
whatever for
toast.
lunch, and then
Yeah.
and exactly. So it's like I just love how we all have the same foods in different disguises, and yet we always find it like jarring to have it in a different context. I made pancakes for my kids and their American friends once, and the kids for dinner because they were over, and I was like, "Oh, let's just have pancakes." And the American kids were like, "For dinner? What are you talking? What?
Shock.
What?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is." And I've heard that it's sometimes people do this and they call it breakfast for dinner. And
Yeah.
for me, as a German, we don't have pancakes for breakfast. That's not a breakfast food.
Sunday,
And it
like a little
it's just
brunch.
it's so funny to you wouldn't have you have bread for breakfast, obviously, not pancakes. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're totally digressing.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's talk about you coming back to from your gap year, and then you studied languages, and is that when you did Spanish?
So I did German and French and business, had
Okay.
the third year abroad. Then I graduated in the pandemic, which was not ideal. Lived in Germany for another 2 years, whilst I was waiting for my cruise ship job to kind of recommence and go back into that. So yeah, I worked on a cruise ship for 2.5 years. and met my partner there who's Mexican. And then I was like, well, I may as well learn Spanish. So that was definitely a more recent thing, probably in the last 2 years.
Okay. So finally caught up with you. You're like, okay, I'm
Yes.
gonna do it now.
But it's on my terms now, so it's fine.
Yes, yeah, fabulous. Yeah, well, talk a little bit about your cruise job because it sounds quite glamorous. I've never been on a cruise and I've
Yeah. Neither had I. The first time I got on a cruise was actually to work on one.
yeah,
So everyone was like, what if you get seasick? And I was like, well, I won't know until I'm there. But yeah, it was an amazing travel experience. I did 5 different contracts. So one was in the Caribbean, one was around Europe, one was Alaska, another one was Australia, New Zealand, and then yeah, another one back in the Caribbean, Florida and that kind of area. So in terms of global travel, it was amazing, but I definitely think there's this misconception of it being glamorous because it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Like you
yeah.
work 80 hours a week sometimes,
I was
and
gonna
it's
say because
just
you're
intense.
on duty all the time and also you're in a confined space. It's yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, cabin fever is real.
It's hospitality and customer service nonstop. So
Yeah, it was amazing. And I got to use my languages, which was good,
yeah,
because I was looking after the kids and they were coming from all over the world. So that was definitely ticked a lot of boxes, and I'm
yeah.
I'm really really glad I did it. But by the end, it was just like, okay, that's enough of that situation because it's just not something you could do long term.
Okay, and was it so your job was mainly entertaining kids, looking after so it was obviously you'd had experience being an au pair. So
Yeah,
when did you decide to do language teaching or did you do some on the cruise as well?
I've kind of done it on and off since I was an au pair. I don't like to sit around doing nothing. So on my weekends, which I had off, I was working towards my TEFL qualification.
Mhm.
And then during my third year abroad at university, I was teaching English in a German school. It's one of those things that I kind of put down and pick back up again, but always enjoyed it. During the pandemic, I was teaching English to bankers and people in finance in Frankfurt. So very different teaching adults to kids, but a lot of similar transferable skills. So yeah,
Yeah. Is that how when you set up your business or did that come later?
a little bit later. So after the cruise ship, I needed some time away from the hectic chaos. And I did the Camino de Santiago, which was in Portugal and Spain. And that was for a month. And I kind of had this idea of like, okay, what's next? What
Hmm.
else do I want to do? And yeah, that's where I thought about my business.
So that must have been a kind of a hard period where you've done with a cruise ship job and your partner went back to Mexico, I take it.
Mm.
And then having a long distance relationship, huge challenge. So at what point did you decide to do the Camino? Where did this come from and was that a little rebel, the little inner rebel that just like, I need
It
to do
sounds
something
like it now that I'm listing my life. Um, it was always one of those things that was in the back of my brain.
different?
I don't know if you get these kind of bucket list moments as a traveler and somebody that wants to live in different places. Uh, if I had 1,000 lifetimes, I would still have places I wanted to go. So it was one of those kind of ideas. But I think for a lot of reasons, mainly the time, I'd never been able to do it because you have to be careful with the weather and when you're going. And also, I knew that I didn't want to just do it for 3 days and then be done. I wanted to
Hmm.
kind of commit to it and do a full amount. So to find a month when I was available, that kind of fell right into my lap at that moment. And I was like, well, now or never, why not? Because I didn't have a job and it was, yeah, it was springtime, so it wasn't too hot. So I feel like the universe kind of aligned and it worked out.
Sometimes I feel like it's those impulses we have where you have that like it's now or never, and then you
Yeah,
have to act on it. And I think a lot of people don't or can't act on it, but
yeah,
it just sounds like one of those moments.
yeah.
It's quite an undertaking to decide to do that by yourself as a woman.
I guess.
And I know a lot of people do it, but you have to have your mindset has to be right for it, I think. And I don't
Yeah,
think maybe you're not in this frame of mind all the time. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was very physically challenging, but I would say mentally that's kind of what gets you through it. And I knew that I wanted something different to help my mental health because the cruise
Yeah.
ship had been so polar opposite to that, that it was like, okay, this is a challenge to be tranquil, to be alone, to be in nature,
Mm.
reconnect. A lot of people had a lot of comments of why it would be a bad idea, but
Of
I was
course,
not
that
going to
was going to
listen
be
to
my
that.
next question. So, how did people around you react when you said you were going to do that? Because I mean, your partner must have had thoughts, your parents, because it's quite big, and also, I think, did you tell me you hadn't really trained for it either,
Yeah.
physically?
Um, like I've always loved hiking. I've always loved being outside. In the UK, we have like a challenge called the Duke of Edinburgh Award. So I did that as a teenager. So I'd not trained specifically for it. And I think
Hmm.
even now, if I did it again, I don't think there is any training that you can do to prepare for like, the constantness of it, because it's not like you go and do a 12-hour hike and then you rest. It's like you're doing it every single day. So there's
Yeah.
nothing that can simulate that unless you're actually doing it. But yeah, my parents were concerned. My partner was like, "Really? You sure you want to do this?" I think it's hard because you're navigating a long distance relationship. And I knew that whilst I was doing the Camino, I wanted to be as tech free and screen free as possible. So that was, yeah, another communication challenge. Everybody thought, because at this point I didn't speak Spanish and I definitely didn't speak Portuguese, everybody thought I was going to do the French way, which is like the top of France,
Hmm.
like across the top of Spain. So everyone was like, "Oh, you're going to do that?" And I was like, "Actually, you know what? I love the ocean, so I really want to walk up the Portuguese coast." And it just felt like very rogue, but I really have a deep connection to the ocean, and it was important for me to be able to see the coast. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that's what I did.
So you gave yourself a month, bought your ticket to Lisbon. Was it
Yeah,
Lisbon?
so
Yeah.
exactly. So the Portuguese route goes all the way up, so you can start wherever. Most people start from Porto.
Hmm.
That's about 2 weeks to Santiago de Compostela. But yeah, I knew it was about a month from Lisbon, so I started from there.
How was that? I'm just, for someone who hasn't heard of the Camino or doesn't
Yeah.
really know anything, what do we have to, what should we imagine? What is it like? So how do you land in Lisbon and you're like, okay, what happens next?
Now what?
Yes, no, what?
Yes, so I had done quite a lot of research before going. I knew that I wouldn't be able to do it like en route as much, but I did want to be, yeah, like tech free. So I bought a book, and each page was basically a day of this walk. And so it's a very like ancient, historical, religious pilgrimage traditionally, with I would say hundreds of different roads all leading to this cathedral in Spain. And that's traditionally why people did it. I am not religious, but I did feel like it was a spiritual journey. And basically, the idea is that you follow these yellow arrows or shell symbols, and you just follow them the whole route, and then they will lead you to the cathedral. So it's supposed to be able to be done on your own, easy to navigate, and yeah, that it's available to anybody that wants to be able to do it. And then you stay in accommodation along the route, mainly hostels. I met some people that were wild camping, which was not for me. Some people do it without spending any money, so they stay like on sofas and do couch surfing. Everybody kind of does it in their own way, which I think is really nice. Lots of people do it on an annual basis, so they pick a different route each year and get a different experience from where they go.
Yeah, I've heard people say they've done it numerous
Yeah,
times, and so if
yeah,
there's
I've got the
something that
bug now.
happens, there's some. Yes, this is the thing. So I mean, it just sounds amazing in our crazy busy world to just take a month off and get rid of screens, and you're just what we do on a daily basis. Because I mean, I can't imagine life without a screen now. It's just we're all
Yeah,
so used to that, and to rely on that as well for our whatever stimulation, mental health,
yeah.
even, and entertainment. And so, did you have like, were you listening to podcasts? Were you listening to music? Were you doing things like that?
I had anticipated that I would, and I downloaded loads of stuff.
Hmm.
I knew that I wouldn't really have good service or be able to like stream anything. So in anticipation, I'd got lots of audiobooks and podcasts, and I was like, perfect, I'm going to catch up on everything. And in the end, I just really loved the silence. I was walking through these beautiful eucalyptus forests for about 4 days back to back at one point, and I thought it would be such a shame to ignore like the birds and the nature and all of that, just to listen to a podcast that I can listen to anytime. So I listened to it more in the evening because you would walk until about 3 or 4, and then
Hmm.
that's quite a long time until you sleep. So once I was at the hostel, then I would kind of engage with that stuff and then a little bit reality.
Sounds so healthy. Just kind of, it's like, it's even like listening to you say these words, it's like it's calming. And we all know this. It's like when I take my dog out and I forget my headphones or something, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to be walking.
Yeah.
And or sometimes you even forget, or when you listen to something and you
Yeah.
get a phone call, and then a phone call ends, and the book doesn't come back on, or the music doesn't come back on, and you're like, and you don't notice, and then you're like, oh God,
Yeah.
this is so good to be. You feel like
Silent.
your head is calming, really calming down, and then you realize how much we just keep bombarding ourselves with noise. And
Yeah.
so,
With constant
wow.
distractions. Um, I mean, at one point, like it was definitely a safety issue, which is why a lot of people start from Porto. So a lot of the route from Lisbon to Porto is quite industrial. And so I
Hmm.
was walking along, I guess the equivalent in the UK would be motorways, which is really dangerous, walking into traffic, especially like starting early in the morning. So I needed to not have headphones so I could hear the
Hmm.
cars coming. So that was a little bit less relaxing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess during a month there'll be lots of
Yeah,
different
ups and downs.
environments. But what about other people? Because I just imagine, and what about planning, like accommodation? Do you have to book everything in advance, or are people on route quite? I mean, they must be used to those pilgrims who
Yeah.
walk through all the time. But what is it like in terms of how did you plan out your where you were going to stay, or did you?
I did have a spreadsheet, but I did not stick to the spreadsheet, mainly due to injury. And there was also at the same time a pilgrimage, I think it was Fatima pilgrimage, which is basically blue arrows going in the opposite direction. And so you can imagine there's lots of people then staying at the same villages each night. So tried to get ahead of that because that was causing a lot of situations with accommodation. So sometimes I just had to reschedule and make new plans. Sometimes I had to break the Camino rules, so to say, and get on a train or a bus because there was just nowhere to sleep
Hmm.
and I didn't want to sleep outside. But yeah, I think what's amazing is you meet people doing the same thing. And if you want to walk with them and you want to learn about their life, then absolutely lots of people are open to that. Equally, I met a lot of people that they were like, hey, it's nothing personal. Today I'm walking on my own, or I'm walking in memory of somebody, or I'm walking with the Camino Angels. And nobody takes offense at it. It's a very personal journey. And so there were people walking in groups of 20 people, and there are equally people that you'll see them at the hostels, because you're all going the same way, right?
Hmm.
But you don't need to interact with them if you don't want to.
That must be quite a relief as well. Because I always feel like
Yeah, there was no
we're so
social pressure.
yes, we're so conditioned to be friendly and accommodating and having a chatting to people. And I mean, here in the US, it's like you can't be anywhere. You can't get on in a lift, or you can't
Alone.
without people talking to you. There's
Mhm.
just you can't be silent. You have to, and I feel like it's quite liberating to be like, yeah, I'm, not.
It's a little bit of a shock at first. Like the first time I was like, hey, can I join you for breakfast? And
Of
this guy was like,
course.
actually no. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. But
Wow.
eventually I
Yeah.
realized like there's some beauty in that. And it's like everybody's doing it for their own reason.
Yes. And setting your own boundaries. I love that.
Yes.
It's really, I mean, that must be quite to spend a month doing that and dealing with rejection, but also being able to say no without feeling bad about it. How
Yeah.
liberating. Yeah.
And it's nice because you can ask people for help along the way. Like as much as I'm very like girl power and go do it yourself, there are times when you just can't do it on your own, Like I didn't speak Portuguese, for example. and
Hmm.
I got injured and I needed to go to a pharmacy. And so things like this, it's nice that you know that you're kind of going with a tide of people all going the same way. And you see these
Yeah.
familiar faces and you're like, hey, can I just ask you for this? One guy lent me his walking poles because he didn't need them. So I used them for the last week, sharing a lot of food, sharing experiences, stories. So I think that sense of community is also there.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, of course. And being human together, I love it. Oh yeah, what occurred to me when you were talking, what are Camino angels?
Yeah. So it's, I guess, linked to the religious aspect of it, that these angels are guiding you towards the cathedral. And I didn't know if it was one of these stories that's like, oh, that sounds nice, but it's not real, or I don't know. It's hard to say what's real, especially when you're talking about faith and religion. But I think it sounded nice, and I didn't know if it was true.
Mhm.
But the idea that these people, they only appear to you when you need them, and you can't ask for them. They come when they sense that you need them, and they can provide some assistance. And so I experienced my own Camino Angel, and then since then I'm like convinced, like, yep, they are real, and I think they're this magical experience. So I was walking in a really hot day, and there was a heat wave, and I ran out of water. So I was carrying 2 liters, and that's already quite heavy. And you can't really carry more than that. And so I was like, okay, I need to get some water at some point. Walking through this village, I was like, perfect, I'll stop at a shop, get something. And for some reason or another, there was like a festival, everything was closed. I did not see one single soul, kind of like Germany on a Sunday, these vibes of like, nope, they're dead with families doing something, right? And I was like, I know that I need water and it's getting to a point where it's a little bit dangerous. And yeah, I just didn't really know what to do because I'd passed a stream already of running water. And I was like, I'd rather not drink it if I don't know where it's coming from. It might not be
Hmm.
safe, might not be clean. And from an empty like village square, a man crossed the road and came to see me, and he said, "Here, you need something." And I was like, yeah, like if I could just use your tap or something." And he said he gave me two cans of iced tea, and he said, "My name's Miguel, and I can see that you're in need, and I wish you well on your journey." And like
Oh,
even now, it's making me emotional because it's like,
I'm getting goosebumps right now. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh.
because I was completely alone, and it's
Hmm.
like this kindness without expectation. There was never a way that I could repay him. There was never a way that, like, it wasn't about the monetary value of the iced tea, right?
Hmm.
It was the fact that he saw that I needed something and he was happy to provide it, even though I couldn't give anything back. And it really taught me a lot about trusting the journey, but also paying it forward,
Hmm.
being a Camino angel for somebody else.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't like uncertainty. And so for me, the idea of kind of walking and then not having everything planned out and knowing exactly where I'm going to be when is quite it could I know it
Inserting.
would make me feel quite anxious and
Yeah.
doing it by myself and all that. So you're probably just at that point where you're like starting to panic. Like
Yeah,
I
that
this is
rising feeling in your chest, like, what if all the
yeah.
critics were right and maybe this was actually a situation where I'm now putting myself in
Mm,
danger because I'm going to pass out with heat stroke on my own.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, definitely letting go of control was a
Mm.
great tool that I learned. Still working on it, but I think you can't possibly plan 700 kilometers. You don't know who you're going to meet, what's going to
No.
happen. And
That's
I
why
had
it's
my
so
spreadsheet.
brave. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I had my spreadsheet and it went out the window by about day 5. And my parents were like, "Oh, so you're supposed to be in this village tonight. We're tracking where you're going." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm nowhere near there."
So how was that like communication? You said it was, I mean, it was going to be difficult. So how often did you like check in with people?
Every few days, I think,
Okay.
just as necessary. My mum put like a little tracker in my backpack so she knew that I was like moving along the route. Um, and that gave her the peace of mind without me needing to
Mm.
communicate with her directly. Like it's really hard to find the balance of safety, but also making sure that you're doing it for you, not just kind of for the performance element of, look where I am, let me do a Facebook
Hmm.
post. for me, it was like, okay, well, if I plan to walk 12 kilometers today and I only walk 8, that's what my body can do, and that's okay, and that's enough. And that was a big journey of acceptance rather
Mm.
than, oh, this is where you're supposed to be on the spreadsheet.
Yeah. But also, I mean, you have that time frame in your mind, so you know you have to do a certain amount of
Yeah.
kilometers a day. I'm already getting stressed just thinking how if you feel like halfway through, you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to meet my goal. How
Yeah.
did that affect you, or did you just feel like it's going to work out?
I had to take a few days off because I got a blister underneath a toenail, which I did not even
Mhm.
know was possible. But it then got infected and I needed antibiotics and it was a bit of a mess. So I took a few days off and I knew that if I walked on those days, I would make it worse.
Mhm.
So I just got a train to kind of cover those distances there, those few days.
Mhm.
And then again at the end, I thought about adding on 5 days. So there's Finisterre, which is like the end of the world, which is right on the coast, and people do that 5 day pilgrimage. And I thought about doing that, but at the end, my body was like, no, I think we've had enough. So I decided to save that, save that for another day, and I think I'll go back at some point. But yeah, there's not much point pushing it further than you can go because
Mhm.
it will eventually catch up with you. And I think we've all had to learn that the hard way, for even if you're not doing a Camino, but in various aspects of life.
Yeah. And I mean, very often we learn through physical things that our body tells us what we are capable of and where we need to just listen. So would you say that was the injury time was your low point, or what was kind of talking about like lows, highs and lows? What at what point did you feel the lowest in this experience? Because I mean, as great as it sounds
Yeah.
to just get away and to be by yourself and all that, but you must have times where you were like, I just need company and I need other people and I feel lonely and questioning why
Yeah.
you did this. And yeah,
What on earth am I doing?
yeah.
Yeah, I would say that it was less in terms of like low and high days, and every day had highs and lows. So I could wake up in the morning, and sometimes because I knew that I had to walk 20 or 25 kilometers that day,
Mhm.
I knew it would be a long day. So because of the heat, I would set off at maybe 5 in the morning before the sun rose, and it was still pitch black, with my head torch. Nobody's even awake at that time. Those were kind of scary and unsettling moments because if you get lost at that time in the morning, you might miss one yellow arrow and then you're kind of thrown off for the rest of the day. But then equally, you might hit like a highlight at lunchtime. You might sit with somebody and have lunch with them. And, like it's very up and down in the moment rather than my regular life where I feel like, okay, I have a good week or a bad week.
Mhm.
It's just like, okay, it can change minute to minute. The weather is a massive influence. So probably one of my lowest points was when it was just absolutely torrential rain. And once your socks and boots are wet, it's pretty miserable because they're not going to be getting dry anytime soon. And I knew my accommodation was at the top of a funicular railway, so it was pretty high up. Um, and the railway went up to the top of the mountain, but did not come down again the next morning. So that's a moment that sticks in my mind where I was like, if I wanted to walk in torrential rain, I could have just stayed in Manchester. What on earth am I doing?
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. And
But yeah, like
what
I wouldn't have appreciated it if every day was sunny, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of sayings and things, right? So where you
Yeah.
like, you need the lows to enjoy the highs, and yeah. Is there like one high point or one experience that stood out to you that where you're like that was just amazing? I mean, other than Miguel, the Camino Angel.
Yeah, I think I'd hyped up finishing as being like the high point and the pinnacle of the journey. And I thought that would be the most amazing, like seeing the cathedral, getting my certificate, getting the final stamp. Because along the way, you're seeing the kilometer signs next to the yellow arrows. So I knew that I started off at 700 and something. And those countdowns, getting closer to zero, that was really motivating. But I wouldn't say that was the highest point because I think people I met along the way, um, I made a friend from Hungary, I made friends from France, and you just connect with them, even if you can't linguistically connect with them, you're just sharing this amazing experience and laughing together and comparing blisters and sharing bandages. And it's like this very yeah, humbling experience where you just have to connect with other people and be authentic because you have absolutely no other choice, you know. You haven't washed your hair in 4 days, you're wearing the same underwear that you've brought with you because you're carrying this heavy backpack. So it's like everything is bare minimum, everything's exposed and real. That was probably my best moment connecting with these people.
Mm. Are you still in touch with a few people that you met along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I see photos of them doing it again, and I'm like, oh, I want to be back there. And I think we will always have that connection, but it will never be of that moment again. Like even if I met them in the real life now and went for a coffee, it wouldn't be quite the same.
Yeah, yeah. Can you imagine doing it with someone else?
Yeah, my girlfriend asked me that. She was like, "Oh, well, I'll do it with you next time." And I was like, "I don't know. Like, I don't ever mean it personally to anybody, but it's just something very special about doing it by yourself
Mm.
and going literally at your own pace. If you want a slower day or you just want to kind of get ahead of the crowd or whatever, you're only answering to yourself. And I think that's really a unique experience. I think you would have to compromise if you did it with someone else. And not that that's a bad thing, but it would just be a different experience. So I might consider it, but
Yeah, I
I
can
think doing it
see
your own
that.
is nice.
Absolutely, because also it's like it's the one time where you really get to know yourself, physical
Exactly.
limits and everything, and where you kind of you don't have to follow anyone else's pace, and you really get to set your own boundaries.
Yeah. You listen to your own body.
And just, I mean, there's those situations are so rare in life where we can really, where we're alone with ourselves and are really in tune.
Yeah.
So, what did it feel like coming back from this? Because a month is quite a long time to be the only answer to yourself, and
Yes.
then you're plunged back into reality, and then all of a sudden there's all these people, and they want to know what it was like, and you might not even want to talk about it at first, because I also imagine it's something you need to process, and then
Yeah.
you're like, I can't possibly tell you what it was like. I mean, I feel like now you can talk, as you talk about it, you probably couldn't have done this right after.
For sure. Like you haven't realized the lessons you've learned. You haven't realized what a profound impact it's had on you until you
Hmm.
take a step back and you're like, oh, okay, I've changed and these are all the ways. I did keep a diary journal kind of thing, so I wrote in it every day.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't shared that with anybody. That's just kind of for my memories and seeing all the places that I went. But it, yeah, it's a bit anticlimactic coming home, and it's a feeling that I experience often, not just after the Camino, but after a big trip or an adventure. You come back and you realize everything is the same except you. And it's like, oh, okay, how can I possibly put into words? How can I vocalize what I've experienced? And you can't. And I feel like such an advocate for the Camino, and I'm like, just go and do it. I really feel like
Hmm.
everybody should do it. People literally did it over a bank holiday weekend, and they did it for 3 or 4 days. Some people did it for, I don't know, I met one guy who'd done it for 10 weeks. So you can really kind of do it for your own like length or whatever your
Hmm.
ability is. So yeah, I would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah. Well, it sounds amazing. Um, It sounds amazing. And how would you, I mean, this is such a kind of cliche question, but how would you say it then influenced your further decisions? Because obviously, so you came back and you said you didn't have a job, you did the Camino, then you came back and you're like, I have to make some decisions now. I need to
Yeah.
plan my life. I need to find a new job. What, if anything,
Yeah.
from the Camino influenced that?
Yeah, just having the breathing space, which is ironic because most of the Camino I was not breathing so well, was out of breath. But you understand the concept of just like not going straight from one thing to another. Um, Going, from school to university to a job. We're kind of on this treadmill, and it, you don't often get a month. I mean, I know as a teacher you generally do, but most professions you don't get a
Mm.
month before you go into the next thing. So that was really valuable time, and I kind of had this reflection that I don't want to work for anybody else again. And so yeah, I think that was when I had the idea about creating my own business, being my own boss, and trying to really make a difference in my own little way and helping people because that was so important to me. And the Camino kind of reinforced that. that if I can help people and feel like it's fulfilling and rewarding, then that's kind of the direction I want to move into. And so, yeah, then I came back and pretty soon after moved to Mexico and started my business the same week. Which I'm not sure I would recommend, but that's how it went. I hit the ground running straight after the time away from reality. It is like a bubble popping. That's the best way I can describe it. Because yeah, you're not cooking, you're not really
Yeah.
doing laundry, you're not paying bills, you're not responsible for anything. And then you come back to the real world and everybody's like, "Oh, we need your attention, we need you to do this. These tasks are required because they're expected." And it's like, "Oh, but I was just, basically sleeping in a forest last night. I don't know what to do anymore."
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's like it's bad enough after a big trip when you come back and you're like,
Exactly.
I can't even deal with laundry now.
Yeah.
It's just not, it doesn't make any sense. So wow. So that was quite extreme then, moving countries. And had you been to Mexico before?
So the cruise ship, because it's an American company, like a lot of
Mm.
the time it went to the Caribbean and Mexico,
Hmm.
but nothing quite as, yeah, not like living there, like it was just day trips and I'd visited a few times, Mexico City. And I have always had this feeling I don't want to be in the UK. And so it was like a why not kind of moment. Like I've got
Hmm.
nothing to lose. I can take my laptop and go anywhere. So I feel incredibly lucky that I was able to do that.
And I guess your partner appreciated it too after all that time apart.
Yeah, and my girlfriend was like, "Oh, well, it makes sense. It fixes a lot of long distance troubles." So yeah, that was good.
And where in Mexico did you go? Was it Mexico City?
No, like an hour from Cancun on the coast.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Needed to be near the ocean.
And where are you now?
I'm back in Manchester and hopefully going to Spain in the next couple of months.
Okay. And how long were you in Mexico altogether?
About 18 months, I think, in total. It
Okay.
was such an amazing experience, so different to living in Europe, so different to living on a cruise ship. I miss it daily. I love the food, the sunshine, the culture is just so relaxed, especially going from somewhere like Germany, which I equally love, but it's completely different.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, yes.
yeah, like it's not a bad thing. It's just like night and day, and I love this kind of, yeah, we're just chill, like we're not living to work, and yeah, the friendliness, the openness, the
Yeah.
sense of community that was, yeah, really rich and vibrant.
And do you feel like setting up your business in an environment like that made it more fun? Because it's like it's setting up a business is always stressful and getting the clients and everything. And do
Yeah.
you feel like maybe because of your move, because you were like just starting a new chapter, you had all this energy around you that helped you with that?
I've never thought about it like that, Steph, but I guess it didn't do any harm. I really
Because
try and take a lot of playfulness and curiosity into my sessions, and I feel like,
mhm.
yeah, like the open-mindedness could have definitely helped.
Because I feel like sometimes being in a new environment is so energizing, even if it's
Yeah.
exhausting and crazy because you have to figure out all the logistics and everything and get your bearings. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you get this. It's like a free, like, hey,
Lease of life.
yes, exactly. And so it's probably a nice thing to do, start a business. And okay, so and your clients are worldwide.
Yes, I feel very lucky that I get to work with people all over the world. And I feel like I get to travel every single day because they teach me about their culture, language, history, food, without me needing to leave my laptop. So I
Yes,
think it's a
fabulous.
mutual benefit thing.
And mobile business is great for a global person, I think. So that's amazing. Yeah. And then so you're thinking of going to Spain, and I mean that
Yep,
will make revisiting the Camino easier, I guess. And
exactly.
maybe even for shorter periods.
Yeah, I think I'll walk past a few yellow arrows and I'll get tempted to get my walking boots back on.
I could totally imagine that yeah, well that's lovely. So thank you so much for sharing this experience. Because I hadn't, I mean, I obviously heard of the Camino, and I've met people who've done it, but it's nice to have the opportunity to ask questions and to get like inside scoop. Because
Yeah.
I have actually met people who had done it, but didn't really want to share too much about it.
Yeah.
A little bit like it's such a personal experience, and if you want to know what it's like, you have to do it yourself.
Best marketing ever.
Absolutely. But yeah,
Sold.
but it's just I'm a curious person, so it's just nice to kind of get in someone's head for a little while and share
Yeah,
those
I'm happy to share.
experiences. I've just got a couple of little questions for you to wrap up. So one is there anything that you wish you'd known when you started the Camino that you would be like, this is a big piece of advice I would have loved to have? Or do you think it was actually good that you didn't know?
Figured it all out in the end. I wish I'd have packed less, but that is pretty much the story of every traveler's life. But in
Yeah.
this exact situation, I
Yeah.
was carrying everything I packed, so it was even more crucial. But no, I'm glad that I got to discover it as I went on.
And final question. Are you, and this is like a strange question asking someone who's into languages, but maybe it's not languages. Are you learning anything new right now?
I am trying to learn Spanish, which is, yeah, an important goal for moving to Spain. But I'm really interested in neuroplasticity and mindfulness, and I'm reading Mind Magic at the moment. So it's about kind of rewiring the brain and how we can think differently. And yeah, I find that so fascinating that the brain is not set and fixed in one way, but we can actually train it to manifest or create different goals. So I'm definitely not an expert on it, but I'm finding it really interesting to learn about it.
That sounds fascinating. I mean, yeah, I'm very interested in psychology,
Mm,
and I love how there's so much new research coming out, and
yeah.
it's like figuring out how the brain works. Fantastic. Yeah, that's
So
great.
much we don't know, which I don't know if is reassuring or terrifying.
Okay, well, it was lovely chatting with you or listening to you and your story. So, I wish you all the luck for your move to Spain and hope that
Thank
goes
you.
well.
Thank you.
If people wanted to find you online, what would be the best way?
Yeah, so my business is Mega Language Coach. So I'm on website, Instagram, TikTok, and also LinkedIn, which is how we connected, which was really nice.
Yeah,
Megan Nicholls. And yeah, I'd love to hear some questions or other people's experiences, not just about languages, but traveling. That would be really cool.
yeah, it's great building a network. Always good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Steph.
Megan.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, what a trip. I loved listening to Meg and her story, and I'm really tempted to give the Camino a go myself. It sounds absolutely amazing. And to be fair, I always feel like visiting a place when I've talked to my guests. I guess it's the nomadic part of myself that always feels like exploring something new. But with the Camino, it's so much more than just seeing a landscape or experiencing a country or two or three countries in depth. When Meg talked about not even wanting to listen to music, I thought, wow, get to that place in your head where you're fully in the moment and have such clarity must feel really special. And to do all this by yourself makes so much sense. I think if I did this, I'd have to do it alone too. But I don't know if I'm brave enough. So maybe the time will come. If you like this episode, if you have feedback, maybe you've walked the Camino yourself and had similar or totally different experiences, please get in touch, send me a message. I feel like this could be the sort of episode where people have questions. And so maybe there'll be some more about this. I'm currently planning a few live sessions on Instagram and also maybe a few Zooms to cover a variety of topics. And I could imagine talking about the Camino might be a good one. I have someone else in mind who could also talk about it and maybe answer some questions. So if this is something you're interested in, let me know. You can all find all my contact details, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. in the show notes. And of course, I've listed all of Meg's details too. what I haven't done is list anything Camino related, because there is so much information out there. Actually, I started looking, and then to be honest, I feel like it's such a personal journey. And so anyone interested in doing this needs to do their own research. I think it's part of the experience. And with that, I think this is it for today. Stay happy and healthy. Don't let the news dominate you and your nervous system. Make sure you look after yourself. I know it's really difficult at the moment because there's so much tragedy and there's so many horrible things surfacing. And it's easy to just let all that get you down. So it's really important to kind of counteract that. Even if you feel like anything you do is irrelevant, it isn't. You need to stay strong and do what you're doing. If you're up here in the Northeast and you've just survived this second blizzard of the year, then I feel for you. I am so ready for spring, and I hope it won't be too long. Take care and see you next time.